Whether you're thinking of getting a kiln or already have one, this video's for you. Hi, Marie here from Pottery Crafters. In this video, I'll go over the essential safety tips for electric kilns that every kiln owner or wannabe kiln owner should know. All the supplies used in this video are listed for you below in the show notes. Pottery kilns are amazing. However, the most important question is, are they really safe to use? Well, the truth is yes, but only as long as you play by the rules when installing and using them. First and foremost is the power supply for your kiln. Pottery kilns are fired at least 1,828 degrees Fahrenheit or 998 degrees Celsius, which is cone 06, and many can reach up to 2,345 degrees Fahrenheit or 1,285 degrees Celsius, which is cone 10, like this one. With all that heat generated, you'll need a little more power than just a standard household outlet, except for the tiny kilns. When choosing a kiln, size does matter. You'll have to know whether or not your home or studio will have a sufficient power supply for the kiln you choose. It's essential that the electrical outlet matches the kiln's voltage requirements. This entails making sure that you have enough amperage. The larger the amperage, the more electricity can go through the circuit. You will need room in your breaker box for a separate switch that connects to the kiln. I can turn my kiln on and off here instead of plugging and unplugging it every time I use it, which can weaken the connection over time. And it's cheaper for me to replace the breaker switch than it is to replace the plug and receptacle. Once you know you have enough power and room in your breaker box, you'll need the correct direct line or outlet for the kiln plug. Never use an extension cord. If you haven't purchased a kiln yet, you can have an electrician give you an estimate and check the compatibility of the kiln you want with your electrical system. Then safely and correctly install it. The next important safety tip is the placement of your kiln. Most kilns are placed in garages, basements, large sheds, or rooms that are closed off from the rest of the house or the studio. Kilns can also be placed outside. If you place your kiln outside, it must be placed in a dry area and have some type of coverage over it to protect the control panel from the elements to prevent corrosion or electrical shock. If you live in a region where the temperature dips below freezing, the kiln should be covered. Whether your kiln is inside or out, the temperature around the kiln must be above freezing before you can fire it. When firing, the surface temperature of the kiln can reach above 500 degrees Fahrenheit or 260 degrees Celsius, depending on the firing temperature, insulation, and the size of the kiln. So the indoor space you choose must have proper ventilation, which I'll get into in a little bit. You also need proper clearance space above and around your kiln to keep the walls cool and reduce the heat buildup, which can cause overheating. The kiln should have at least an 18 to 36 inch clearance around all sides. Of course, this would depend on the size of the kiln. My kiln is on a kiln stand with wheels, so I can roll it out when I use it and make sure that it's at least 30 inches away from the wall and shelf, just to be on the safe side. Skutt kilns are programmed to shut down automatically if the control box heats up over 160 degrees Fahrenheit or 71 degrees Celsius. This Skutt 818 has 3-inch fire bricks that insulate the control box more than the standard 2.5-inch fire bricks. It also heats up the room less and holds the heat in the kiln more, making it more energy efficient. The flooring under the kiln should be non-combustible. The best flooring materials are concrete, stone, or brick. The golden rule is to never place your kiln on the ground. All kilns must be on a non-flammable stand. The clearance space gives adequate airflow on the bottom of the kiln. With that said, let's take a closer look at ventilation. Ventilation is very important because clays and glazes contain a range of materials that release fumes when the kiln is fired. Most of the fumes from the clays and glazes release between 600 degrees Fahrenheit or 315 degrees Celsius to 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit or 640 degrees Celsius. The fumes that fill the kiln during the firing should be allowed to escape. The amount of fumes released also depends on the size of your kiln. A basement would not be a safe placement for the kiln if it's not well ventilated, because the fumes will spread through spaces such as under doors and through the duct system, which circulates air throughout the house. If you plan on placing a kiln in the basement or a separate room in your house or studio, you will need a ventilation system. Overhead vents will draw fumes and heat out of the kiln area, but not bring the oxygen into the kiln. And the downdraft ventilation system will draw the fumes out and bring oxygen in the kiln, but will not be efficient in drawing the heat out of the kiln area. So you may need both. One of the best places for a kiln is in the garage. Garages should have a firewall when attached to the house, so no fumes will go into the living area. You can also open the garage door for adequate ventilation. The bottom line is, if you have fresh air circulating throughout the kiln area, you don't need a vent. I have a more detailed post on my Pottery Crafters website that goes over the ventilation of both the inside and outside areas of the kiln. I left the link for you below in the show notes. You can hit the like button anytime during this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Now, a few more important safety tips between you and the kiln. The heat radiated from the kiln can cause thermal burns if touched. Also, combustible liquids and materials may combust if stored too close to the kiln. Never touch the elements inside the kiln chamber or insert any metal instrument into the kiln while it's on. This can result in an electrical shock. It's also highly recommended not to hang out in the kiln area when firing, especially if you don't have a proper ventilation system in place. Yes, you can check on your kiln, and I always hold my breath. The kiln must be checked right after it's scheduled to shut off. This is to make sure that it shuts off at the right time. If the safety features or temperature controls of the kiln fail, it can overheat, which will damage your pottery and even the kiln. Exercise caution around the peepholes when the peep plugs or peepers are removed, as they emit intense heat. Use fire-rated gloves and keep clothing away from the opening or hot surfaces when removing or replacing any peepholes, or removing the fire brick from the propped-up lid. If you observe the inside of the kiln through the peepholes, you need dark glasses to protect your eyes. Regular sunglasses may not be adequate. Dark glasses will protect your eyes from the harmful effects of the heat and light. You can also check out my video on 21 kiln questions answered. I left the link for you below and on the end screen for you. Here are a few safety maintenance tips. Regular maintenance of your kiln can ensure kiln safety and efficiency. If you have any ventilation systems, make sure that they're working properly. Check for worn out parts like the elements and the thermocouple. If it's damaged, replace it promptly. They are easy to replace. The use of witness cones is very important to ensure that the kiln's temperature is accurate. When my kiln was new, I used cones every 3 to 4 firings. Now that it's older, I use cones every time I fire. Always disconnect the kiln from the power supply before doing any repair or maintenance work. even when vacuuming it, because the vacuum can cause static electricity and harm the elements. You should also disconnect your kiln from the power supply during severe storms to protect against static shock or electrical surges that can damage the controller circuit board. Kilns hate moisture. Damp greenware or damp kiln shelves can crack or even explode due to the pressure of the moisture that vaporizes under the heat. The moisture is also hard on the elements. Something to keep in mind if you candle often. Candling is drying your greenware in the kiln at a low temperature for many hours. It's important to check the lid brace and many bands around the kiln from time to time and securely tighten them when needed. For more detailed information, you can go to my kiln maintenance guide. I left the link below for you. These tips will help you in making kiln safety your top priority when installing and operating a kiln. Thousands of kilns are used safely in homes, schools, and professional studios throughout the world. With a good understanding of kilns and a little common sense, you can run a kiln safely. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to get notified when a new video comes out. Have any questions or want to share your experience with kiln safety? Drop a comment below. I love hearing from you. You watching helps me to make more videos like this one. Now head on over to my 21 kiln questions answered video or my how to make kiln cookies video. If you do, I get to play with more clay. Let's stay dirty.